Hello investigators and welcome to Until the End of Time. My name is Veronica and thank you for tuning in. This video is going to be about the preview cards for the upcoming The Scarlet Keys expansion for Arkham Horror. I've thrown them up on the screen here right now, so if you haven't seen any of them yet, here you go. As always, I'll be going through them one at a time, giving you some of my first thoughts, some of the context and some of the discussion that I've already heard about them. Keep in mind that this is being recorded on the 27th of June, and there's probably going to be a lot more cards going to be revealed soon. So there's a high likelihood that in only a couple of weeks this video will be horribly out of date and there will be lots of cool new combos with these cards. But as of yet, I am unable to look into the future, so we're just going to have to make do with the cards that we have. If you want to stay on top of things, in the description I have placed links to a spreadsheet. I have placed links to a Imgur album being hosted by Davi from Obscure Studies, and of course you can always join us over on Discord. There's a link to that in the description as well. That's where I'll be spending most of my time discussing these cards, and I'll try to give you the occasional video to update you on the latest cards. So the first card that we're going to be talking about is Captivating Discovery, and it was previewed by Miskatonic University Radio. It is called Captivating Discovery, and it is a 0 XP 1 cost Seeker event with the intellect and agility icons. It is insight traded, and it reads, search the top 6 cards of your deck. You may place up to 3 of your clues on your location. For each clue placed in this way, choose and add 2 of the search card to your hand, shuffle your deck. It has some amazing art of Rex falling off of a ladder, which is already becoming a meme, and the flavor text reads, don't you realize what this means? Why don't you calm down and tell me very slowly, which is quite funny. This card has very interesting discussion. It is obviously potentially a lot of draw, or not exactly draw, but it is a search that can give you 6 extra cards in your hand for 1 cost, which is very good. But there's also some other costs going on that make evaluating this card a little difficult. So first of all, it is a search effect. It triggers Mandy's reaction ability. Now, we're not entirely sure how this is supposed to work yet, but based on the way it is worded, it doesn't seem like the search has any targets, so I don't think you can use Mandy's abilities to select an extra target, but you could use it to search 3 deeper cards and have to pick 6 cards out of 9. Keep in mind that you can only ever place 3 clues in your location when playing this card, so you couldn't pick 8 cards out of 9. It also importantly adds the cards to your hand. It does not draw those cards, so it will not trigger Harvey Walters' ability. When evaluating this card, I think the most important question that you have to ask is how likely is it that you will have to pick the clues back up? There are some scenarios in this game where all you care about is discovering all the clues on a given location. Or maybe you get more clues than you really need to finish the scenario because you're trying to clear out a VP location or something like that. In those kinds of situations, this card is really good. If you do not care about the clues that you are putting down, then this is 1 cost, draw 6. That's efficiency that you will not see matched anywhere else. But of course, there are plenty of scenarios where you will have to pick up those clues again, and in those kind of situations, the value of this card goes down rapidly because you're having to spend extra actions to pick the clues back up. Now, of course, this is a Seeker. There are ways of getting multiple clues per investigate, and there are also some other cards that care about getting clues in your location. Cards like Inquiring Mind, cards like Crack the Case care about getting the last clue from a location. And of course, as being a search, Sounding Revelation also cares. Now, it's worth saying that there is some speculation, because we know that one of the investigators in this cycle will be Daryl Simmons, the photographer, and we have seen previously a camera that triggers whenever you discover the last clue at your location. There's some speculation that Daryl will also care about that. Finally, I think it's worth mentioning that Newspaper Level 2 plays quite nicely with this card. If you can put down your last clue with Captivating Discovery and then use Newspaper to pick all your clues back up at once, you really negate the drawback of having to put your clues back down because it's only a single action, at which point this basically costs you 2 actions, but you still get to draw 6 cards, which I think is a very worthwhile trade-off. Moving on to the next card. Here we have I'll Take That, which is a card previewed by the Reddit team over at r/Arkham Horror LCG. I'm fairly certain this is the first time that the subreddit has gotten any cards to preview, so I'm very excited for that. And they did mention they might be getting more cards, which is quite exciting. I'll Take That is a 0 cost, 0 XP rogue event, intellect and agility icons. It has the trick, upgrade and illicit traits, and it reads fast. Play when you successfully evade a humanoid enemy or successfully investigate. Play an item asset from your hand, reducing its cost by X, where X is the amount you succeeded by. Attach I'll Take That to that asset, and the attached asset gains illicit. And the art is Schizo Tool walking away with a man in the background who probably just got his pockets rolled by skids. Immediately worth mentioning, it's a trick, Rita can take it, and it's actually pretty good for her, but I don't know if I'm super high on it for her. And the main reason is, of course, that word humanoid in there. Now, different campaigns have different amounts of humanoid enemies. If you know what campaign you're going into, you might know whether or not you can bring it or not. I would generally measure this card and judge this card based on how likely you are to succeed at an investigate by a certain amount, and then go in from there. But if you know that the campaign is going to have a lot of humanoid enemies, you could also just play it if you're only planning on evading. And I think this card's pretty good. You are in a faction that has lockpicks, you're in a faction that has breaking and entering, so you have ways of getting high successes on investigate actions, at which point it becomes a free play action. This itself is fast, and you get to just play the item without having to spend an extra action, and a certain amount of resource reduction. I think 2 is going to be fairly easy to get, and even 3 or 4 will happen on occasion. On top of that, it's important to remember that you're not just replacing your investigate or your evasion with this, like something like Unearth the Ancients. This is on top of anything else you're doing. So you're also evading that enemy, you're also getting that clue. Maybe you have pickpocketing, you also get to draw cards or gain resources. And rogues have plenty of items, I think, that they want to put into play. Now, I think that is kind of the crux of this card, because I was discussing this with some other content creators, and I think it was Peter from Drawn to the Flame who was a little down on this card because he was worried about the number of times he was going to draw this and not have any items in his hand. And I think that's totally valid. If you don't have the items, this card is, it doesn't do anything. I mean, the intellect and agility icon. But the thing that I said that I thought was very good about this card is that it isn't something that you have to commit up front. You can wait until you know how much you succeed by, and at that point you get to play this, put down your weapon, or put down a lucky cigarette case, and that's really nice. I like that ability to not get ruined by the autofill or by a very bad token where suddenly you were planning on succeeding by 3, but you didn't. You only succeeded by 0, and you don't want to pay 4 resources for your Mauser. So you're just going to wait, you're going to investigate again, or maybe you're just going to try something else, and then later when you succeed by that big number, you get to put your Mauser into play for free. Moving on, we have Improvised Shield. This was previewed by the YouTube channel Playing Board Games. Make sure to go over there, check them out, because they did a fantastic job with their video. And something YouTube algorithm, please give them views and likes, because let's be honest, they do deserve it. I think they do very good videos, and I think they made like a very nice preview video for this card. So very much go over there. Links will be in the description, and I think I can figure out how to put it in the top right corner. Okay, so it is a survivor asset, 1 cost, 0 XP. It is item, armor, and improvised traded, and it takes up a hand slot. And it can soak 3 damage and null horror. And it reads, Improvised Shield can only be played from your discard pile. Forced, when Improvised Shield is defeated, shuffle it into your deck instead of discarding it. So this goes into a line of improvised cards, which are not really useful in your hand, but get a lot of value if you can get them into your discard pile. And this is of course relevant for survivors because a couple of them have abilities that let them discard cards for value, such as Ask and Pete or Wendy. And before we go any further, I do want to mention, I am fairly certain that this card does not work with Tommy. And the reason I say that is the Improvised Shield has a forced effect when it is defeated, and Tommy has a reaction ability when a card is defeated. Forced always takes precedence over reaction abilities, and after the forced ability on this has triggered, you will not have a shield in play anymore to trigger Tommy's ability, so I'm fairly certain it just won't work. But I still think this card's pretty great because there's a lot of things you can do. As with many Survivor cards, there's a lot of corner cases and edge cases to think about. Now, the first thing is, this is one of those improvised cards that you are happy to throw into a corner, or into Wendy's ability, or into Ash Campete's ability, or if you're Patrice, to just discard the end of your turn. A big thing there is that, especially for Ash Campete and Wendy and cornered, this is essentially a blank card that you get for free on top of the improvised shield when you play it from your discard pile, as compared to something like a letter coat, right? A letter coat gives you 2 soak for 0 cost, but if you discard your letter coat to redraw a token with Wendy, you don't also get the soak, but with improvised shield, you can get both. And that's why you probably want this card, is to get that double benefit. That being said, 3 soak is a lot. 3 soak is a lot more than I think a lot of decks kind of need. That's not to say that you'll never need it. There will definitely be times where you're happy to, but this taking up a hand slot means that I kind of want to burn through this damage and then get rid of it, and then maybe play it again later. So I was looking through the list. I know there's Parallel Agnes, who can damage herself to play her spells for cheap. And Blood Eclipse is not a card I think that has found a home yet, but if it is going to find a home, getting to put 3 damage on this to do a massive attack with the Blood Eclipse sounds like fun. And there is some shenanigans you can do with this, given the fact that it only shuffles back into your deck when it is defeated, not when it is discarded. So Joey the Rat, level 3, can sell your item assets, discarding them, to get to resources. If you're playing Bob, you can potentially spend an action to play the improvised shield from your discard pile, put some damage on it, then use Joey to sell it, and it goes back into your discard pile where you can immediately replay it. That sounds like fun to me. I'm excited about this card. I'm always excited about Survivor cards, and I think this one's definitely hinting at potentially some cool discard synergies in the Scarlet Keys box, which I'm very excited for. And then finally, previewed this morning by Mythos Busters. Sorry, not by Mythos Busters, what? By Drawn to the Flame. I'm so sorry. Is Field Agent level 2. Wow, that's a blunder. Oh no, Frank and Peter are going to be upset with me for that one. It's Field Agent, sorry. Okay, let's move on. Level 2, 4 cost Guardian assets with an Intellect and Agility icon. I should note, all of the cards I think so far has had Intellect and Agility icons, except for the Improvised Shield, because that didn't have any icons at all. And then Ally, Agency traded. It takes up an ally slot. And the card reads, you get +1 Intellect, free trigger, exhaust Field Agent, deal 1 horror to it, discover 1 clue at your location, 2 damage, 2 horror. This card is fantastic. It is immediately comparable to Beat Cop level 2, which is a powerful staple from the core set, which you could exhaust and deal damage to enemies. Now, Beat Cop level 2 gets 3 health, so you get to use that ability potentially twice and keep the Beat Cop around for its static boost, or use it 3 times to deal 3 damage. Field Agent only has 2 sanity, so it's a little trickier, because you probably don't want to immediately take 2 horror and get 2 clues and then get rid of her, because that sounds pretty expensive. But I think that's kind of fair, because if they'd given her 3 sanity, that would have been really good. It's already quite strong. And getting that many Teslas clues for free would have been a bit too good. But that just means that this card really benefits from other cards that can give her more sanity or can give it healing. Because every time you heal sanity off this, that's another clue you can take. So cards that I'm thinking about are Inspiring Presence, which can ready an ally and heal a damage or horror from it. So you could use that to immediately get another clue. Or something like the Star, which can give more health and sanity to your assets. That's especially relevant because a lot of the horror healing in the game heals in chunks of 2. So if you can get her from 2 sanity to 3 sanity, you can play a single Soothing Melody to get 2 extra clues. Likewise, I don't know if Logical Reasoning hits allies. I should have checked that before the video. But there are other cards that, First Aid I think is one of them, that heal 2 horror at once. And so having a little bit more on her makes her much, much better. There's another card called Trusted. That's an event that attaches, gives +1 health, +1 sanity to an ally asset. I think you'll want to play those cards. And another thing to keep in mind with her is a lot of Guardians rely on their allies to give them Horror Soak because they don't like taking horrors themselves. Be careful, because you don't want to put your horror on Field Agent, that you have somewhere else or some other way of dealing with that horror so that you don't go insane. I saw a lot of discussion about the community-created Alice Luxley and people saying that this is just way better. And I'm like, they're not the same thing. Alice is also a massive Horror Soak. Field Agent doesn't Horror Soak. In fact, she wants you to run more healing so you can heal her, so you can get more clues. But she's also much more powerful in that she just gives you testless clues. And let's actually just pause on that. This is a Guardian card that gives you testless clues in a good, efficient way that doesn't require any enemies. This is a game changer for True Solo. I think with this card, a lot of Guardians suddenly got a lot better in True Solo, because playing just 2 Field Agents and a Hallowed Mirror is suddenly kind of viable as a solo strategy for clue getting. Like, you'll need more. You might need a flashlight, but she also gives you +1 intellect, so you'll be fine, right? And yeah, this is a card that I think, if I could have gone back a couple of years ago and I would have never have come up with this card, but I think this is exactly the kind of card that Guardian needs to get rid of this idea that the only thing they're good at is multiplayer because they struggle with clues in solo. This is what they need to turn that healing and that team support into something that they can use to proactively beat scenarios. I love this card. I think it's a fantastic addition to the card pool, and I'm very happy to see it, and I can't wait to try it. And I also want to just shout out Charlie, because of course we know Charlie's in this box. Charlie cares about allies. If you haven't seen Charlie yet, check out my previous video where I went all in on Charlie. This card is fantastic for him. I already showed Carolyn. Carolyn, of course, also very happy to heal this card over and over again, get resources, and also just get all those clues. And she goes to 5 intellect. I'm excited about this card. Thank you for watching. Now, this was only 4 cards. Here they are again. But there will probably be a lot more previews coming soon. I don't have any insider information, but I wouldn't be surprised if we got a announcement article this Thursday, because that's usually the day they do announcement articles on. And I think the hype is really building up to this, here we go, here's the Scarlet Keys, we're ready for you now. So definitely keep an eye out on this channel, keep an eye out on Reddit, on the Discord, so that you are up to date and you know all the freshest, coolest cards. With that, I want to give a quick shout out to Frank from Drawn to the Flame and Davi from Obscure Studies. Davi is the one hosting the Imgur album, and both Frank and Davi have been helping me with a spreadsheet, which will be in the description, keeping track of all the Scarlet Key cards. I've done these kinds of spreadsheets and these kinds of albums before, and it's a bit of work. It can be a lot sometimes, but it's such a valuable resource for the community to keep track of things, to easily have access to all the cards. So we're happy to do it, but I'm glad I don't have to do it alone anymore, because it was a bit too much work for one person. So thank you to the both of you for helping me with that. Thank you to you for watching and for being excited about this game, because I love this game. I hope we'll get lots of cool new excitement stuff very soon. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you until the end of time.